Listen closely. Some of you keep waiting for a feeling, a sign, a perfect moment to begin. You imagine there will be a day when the clouds part, the light shines, and suddenly obedience becomes easy. But that day is not coming. The only day you have, the only day promised to you, is now. Day one is not tomorrow. Day one is not when you feel strong enough, holy enough, or ready enough. Day one is now. You keep saying you'll change when life slows down, when the pressure lifts, when the wounds heal. But hear me, the longer you wait, the deeper the chains grow. You cannot negotiate with complacency. You cannot bargain with apathy. They will devour you while you're hesitating. You must rise today. You must confront what has conquered you. You must walk away from what is killing you. You must choose the narrow, costly path even if your knees tremble. Many want transformation without surrender. They want victory without sacrifice. They want purpose without repentance. But there is no shortcut, no comfortable road to a new life. You step forward not because you feel capable, but because you know you cannot remain where you are. Day one begins when you stop excusing yourself and start humbling yourself. Some of you think failure disqualifies you. No failure exposes your need. It reveals how desperate, how dependent, how unable you are on your own. Let that truth drive you, not crush you. Stand up, confess what must be confessed, tear down what must fall, build what must be built. Don't wait for confidence so. Obedience will produce it. Don't wait for clarity. Faithfulness will reveal it. You may feel small. You may feel unworthy. But today is still yours to choose. Get up with a holy stubbornness. Declare war on everything within you that clings to comfort, fear, and passivity. Walk forward, not because the path is easy, but because a new life never begins with convenience. It begins with conviction. Day one is now. When people talk about change, they often imagine a moment still far ahead. Moment when circumstances align just right, when motivation is high, when clarity is perfect, and when fear finally steps aside. They wait for a spark, a sign, or a breakthrough that will make everything easier. This idea of the perfect moment takes root quietly, and it becomes one of the most deceptive comforts a person can cling to. It becomes a false refuge, convincing you that you will act eventually that you will rise soon that you will commit when the time feels right But in reality, this imagined moment is nothing more than a delay dressed as wisdom. It is procrastination disguised as preparation. It is hesitation wearing the mask of strategy, and the truth, raw, unsoftened, unavoidable, is that the perfect moment will never arrive. There is no future season in which you will wake up automatically disciplined, automatically courageous, automatically healed, or automatically ready. Waiting for the perfect moment is another way of saying, I am hoping that change will require nothing painful of me. But meaningful change, the kind that alters the course of your life, always demands something. Sacrifice, discomfort, self-confrontation, humility, and often a willingness to step forward trembling. Too many people try to negotiate with responsibility, telling themselves they just need one more day, one more sign, one more push. But the longer you delay, the more comfortable delay becomes. And once delay becomes comfortable, it becomes the ruler of your life. There is a subtle danger in believing you need to feel inspired before you act. Feelings are fragile. They shift like wind, unpredictable and unreliable. If you wait for passion to move you, you will spend most of your life standing still. If you wait for fear to vanish, you will wait forever. If you wait for circumstances to calm, you will be waiting long after opportunities have passed you by, long after potential has dried up, long after the window for change has closed. Everything inside you that whispers not yet, is tying its hands to your future, pulling it backward, restraining growth before it even begins. Immediate action is not about recklessness. It is about honesty. It is about recognizing that the present moment is the only one guaranteed to you. Tomorrow is an assumption. Next week is a hope. Next year is a dream. But now, this breath, this minute, is the only place where transformation can actually begin. When you accept that truth, action stops being something you postpone and becomes something you embrace. You begin to understand that the cost of waiting is far greater than the cost of starting. Obedience to what you know is right cannot be scheduled for later. The internal shifts that need to happen, discipline, maturity, healing, responsibility, do not grow in the soil of delay. They grow when you start moving. Some people imagine that once they feel confident, then they will start. But confidence is not the starting point of growth. It is the result of growth. You do not become strong by waiting to feel strong. You become strong by taking steps while still feeling weak. You do not become wise by waiting for wisdom to magically appear. Wisdom grows as you take imperfect steps, learn from them, and then take more steps. Every future version of yourself that you admire, disciplined, focused, courageous, established, that person is built on a foundation of decisions made long before comfort existed. Obedience is a decision, not a mood. You choose the right thing because it is right, not because it is easy. You walk forward because movement is necessary, not because the path is smooth. This kind of obedience often feels costly at first. It pulls you out of old patterns, confronts your habits, forces you to wrestle with who you have been and who you want to become. But it is this discomfort that builds the muscle of transformation. Every moment you choose discipline over ease, commitment over convenience, action over hesitation, you carve a new path within yourself. And over time, that path becomes the default, not because some magical burst of motivation came upon you, but because you trained yourself to act without waiting for emotional permission. Future intentions are the softest promises you can make to yourself. They cost nothing in the moment. They demand nothing now. They sound noble, but produce nothing. You can promise yourself 1,000 tomorrows and never change a single today. Real transformation happens when you take those same promises and anchor them to the present. When you stop telling yourself, "I will," and start declaring, "I am." When you stop wishing and start doing. When you stop dreaming and start building. Waiting for the perfect moment is often rooted in fear. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of discomfort, fear of not being good enough. But fear grows stronger the longer you feed it with delay. Every day you put off action, fear expands. Every excuse becomes fertilizer, but the moment you act, especially while afraid, fear shrinks. Even the smallest step forward weakens its hold. Fear thrives in stillness, but dies in movement. And nothing breaks fear faster than obedience to what you know is necessary. There is also a false belief that clarity must come before action. Many people tell themselves they need to understand every detail of the journey before they begin. They want a blueprint, a guarantee, a map free of uncertainty. But clarity does not precede action. Clarity asterisk comes asterisk from action. You discover the path by walking it. Decisions become clearer once you start making them. Priorities become clearer once you begin living them. The fog only lifts for those who move forward, not for those who wait for perfect visibility. Every great transformation in history, every story of redemption, every account of someone rising from low places, begins with a single step taken long before they felt ready. Readiness is not a prerequisite for change. Willingness is. If you are willing to start now, imperfectly, humbly, quietly, everything can shift. People overestimate the power of big moments and underestimate the power of small, consistent obedience. But 1,000 miles are walked through small steps, not giant leaps. The small steps you take today create momentum. Momentum creates habit. Habit creates identity. Identity creates destiny. When you stop waiting for the perfect moment, you accept responsibility for your life. You recognize that you cannot blame circumstances forever. You cannot blame time or fear or exhaustion or lack of inspiration. There comes a point where the only barrier between who you are and who you could be is the story you keep telling yourself about why you cannot start yet. And that story must die. It must be confronted. It must be replaced with truth that now is enough. Now is sufficient. Now is the moment capable of carrying the weight of your transformation. This acceptance is not a burden. It is freedom. It means you no longer depend on ideal conditions. You no longer wait for external permission. You no longer surrender your future to the instability of your emotions. You take ownership of the only thing ever within your control, the choice to act today. You begin to understand that progress does not come from waiting for inspiration, but from building discipline. And discipline is not about harshness. It is about alignment. It is aligning your actions with your purpose, your intentions with your integrity, your decisions with your direction. The truth is that change is not a sudden explosion of transformation, but a steady flame that you choose to keep burning each day. You keep it alive through the things you do when you don't feel like doing them. You keep it alive by showing up again and again, refusing to bow to excuses. You keep it alive by remembering that comfort is the enemy of growth, and that ease is often the greatest threat to your future. The more you lean on comfort, the weaker you become, but the more you lean into challenge, the stronger you grow. Beginning now, choosing this moment, teaches you that you are capable of more than you believed. It teaches you that progress is possible even when conditions are not perfect. It teaches you that the barrier was never the lack of opportunity, but the lack of action. And once you learn this truth, once you finally let it sink into the deepest parts of you, you will no longer envy those who seem disciplined or driven. You will understand that the same power is available to you. Not tomorrow, not when life becomes easier, not when motivation suddenly appears, but now. The perfect moment is a myth. The present moment is a gift. The choice is simple, though not easy. Keep waiting and remain unchanged, or start now and begin to become who you were meant to be. Transformation is not born from ease, nor does it grow in the soil of comfort. It does not blossom in the heart that seeks only convenience, nor does it thrive in the person who is always looking for the path of least resistance. Most people want change, but they want it on their own terms. They want to keep their comforts, cling to their excuses, protect their pride, and still somehow expect a life of growth, strength, clarity, and purpose. But transformation does not bend to convenience. It demands something far deeper, far harder, far more honest. It demands humility. It demands surrender. It demands decisive commitment, an unwavering choice to step into the difficult, the uncomfortable, and the unknown, even when everything in you begs to stay where you are. Humility is the starting point because transformation begins the moment you admit that you cannot continue living the way you have been. It requires acknowledging your limitations, your patterns, your mistakes, your blindness, your weaknesses, and the truths you've avoided. Most people run from humility because it feels like defeat. But humility is not defeat. It is awakening. It is the realization that pride has kept you caged. Pride convinces you that you're fine when you're not, that you're strong when you're crumbling, that you're right when you're wrong, that you're in control when your life is dominated by habits you cannot break. Pride blinds you to the very things that keep you stuck, and nothing changes while you remain blind to yourself. But when humility enters, the walls you built to protect your ego begin to crack. You start to see yourself clearly. You start to see your excuses for what they are, stories you've rehearsed to avoid responsibility. You start to see how often comfort has been your master. You begin to recognize that the battles you avoided did not disappear. They simply grew stronger in the shadows of your silence. Humility forces you to confront the truth, even when the truth stings. It is the first step, the painful step, the necessary step that breaks the illusion that everything is fine as long as you ignore the discomfort. But humility alone is not enough. Transformation also requires surrender, not the shallow kind of surrender that says, "I'll try," but the deep surrender that lays down your conditions, your demands, your preferences, and your illusion of control. Surrender does not mean becoming passive. It means acknowledging that you must release the very things that have been strangling your growth. It means letting go of the behaviors that feel familiar but are destroying you. It means loosening your grip on the fears you've allowed to dictate your decisions. It means silencing the voice that insists you can figure everything out on your own if you just wait long enough. Surrender is terrifying because it demands vulnerability. It requires you to step into the unknown without the guarantee of comfort or certainty. But without surrender, transformation becomes impossible. You cannot cling to your old self and expect a new life to emerge. You cannot hold tightly to the past and still walk freely into the future. Every person who has ever transformed has had a moment where they let go, where they stopped negotiating with the things holding them captive and finally said, "This ends here." That moment of surrender is not weakness, it is power. It is the point where excuses collapse, where self-pity dies, where distractions lose their grip, and where a new discipline begins to take root. But humility and surrender must be met with decisive commitment. Transformation is not a spark of emotion or a short-lived burst of motivation. It is a choice you must make repeatedly, even when the initial excitement fades, even when progress feels slow, even when discouragement whispers that nothing is changing. Commitment is the anchor that keeps you from drifting back into old patterns. Commitment is what you hold on to when your feelings fail you. Commitment is the force that turns intention into reality. Most people fail not because they lack desire, but because they lack commitment. They begin with passion, but collapse under pressure. They make promises to themselves, but do not bind those promises to action. They hope transformation will arrive without perseverance, without consistency, without discipline. But hope without commitment is a wish, and wishes do not build new lives. Change demands decisions, repeated, steady, sometimes painful decisions. You must choose discipline over ease, responsibility over escape, truth over denial, action over delay. Every day you choose, you strengthen the new path. Every day you choose, you weaken the old one. But for this kind of commitment to take root, you must confront what holds you back. You must look directly into the face of the things you've avoided, the habits that drain you, the cycles that trip you, the relationships that weaken you, the thoughts that poison you, the fear that controls you, the wounds you never healed. Confrontation is uncomfortable because it exposes you. It forces you to see patterns you may have pretended weren't real. It forces you to acknowledge how long you've tolerated things that undermine your growth. But what you refuse to confront will rule you. What you refuse to confront will limit you. What you refuse to confront will become the ceiling of your life. Transformation requires that you stop running from yourself. You must face the truth, even when it is inconvenient, even when it is painful, even when it demands change you've resisted for years. Many people never rise because they avoid the difficult conversations, the painful admissions, the internal battles that must be fought. They bury these things under distractions, busyness, entertainment, or excuses. But buried problems do not disappear, they rot. And the longer they rot, the more damage they cause. True transformation, lasting transformation, is built when you face those inner realities and refuse to let them dictate your story anymore. When you stop blaming circumstances, when you stop blaming other people, when you stop blaming timing, when you finally take ownership of your own choices. Ownership is the birthplace of transformation. As long as you believe your life is controlled by things outside of you, you remain powerless. But when you accept responsibility, even for the things you did not choose, you regain control, you reclaim authority over your life, you step into maturity. This is why comfort is so dangerous. Comfort convinces you that staying the same is safer than changing. It whispers that you can avoid risk, avoid pain, avoid responsibility, and still somehow grow. But comfort is a liar. It keeps you in the shallows, far from the depth and strength you are capable of reaching. Comfort protects your old self at the expense of your future self. It shields you from challenge, which means it shields you from growth. Nothing strong is built in comfort. Nothing wise is forged in complacency. Nothing meaningful is created by someone who refuses discomfort. Excuses are the language of comfort. They sound reasonable. They sound intelligent. They sound protective, but they are cages. Every excuse you repeat builds another bar around your potential. Excuses convince you that you will act when things settle, when you're ready, when motivation returns, but these excuses protect nothing except the patterns that break you. The moment you stop making excuses is the moment your strength begins to grow. And confidence, it is one of the most misunderstood myths in the entire process of change. Many people believe they must feel confident before they begin. They believe they must feel capable, prepared, and strong before they take action. But confidence is not a prerequisite for transformation. It is the result of transformation. Confidence grows only when you consistently act in spite of fear. If you wait for confidence before stepping forward, you will never step at all. Confidence is built by repetition, by facing difficulty, by enduring discomfort, by refusing to quit. You do not become confident before you act. You become confident because you acted. Transformation belongs to those who step forward today, not tomorrow, not eventually, not when things feel right. Today. It belongs to the person who admits their need with humility, who releases their grip with surrender, who embraces discipline with commitment, and who confronts the obstacles within themselves with honesty and courage. It belongs to the person who is willing to walk through discomfort, who refuses to hide behind excuses, and who understands that growth requires sacrifice. It belongs to the person who chooses action over hesitation, truth over denial, and movement over stagnation. The life you want, the person you desire to become, the strength you wish you had, they will not appear while you cling to comfort and excuses. They come only through the hard, honest, disciplined work of transformation. And that work begins the moment you are willing to step forward, even with trembling hands, even with uncertainty, even without confidence. It begins when you say, I am done waiting, I am done hiding, I am done running, I am moving forward now. Transformation begins not when everything feels possible, but when you finally confront the things that have made you feel powerless.